Hello, everyone, and welcome to the September 26th developers call for IPython project Jupyter. We are following an agenda, which is linked into the chat for Blue Jeans. So for everyone on the call, if you have updates, please go ahead and start typing notes in there. We do have at the top of the agenda weekly news by organization, so feel free to click through and read up on what's happening with different parts of the project. And we'll kick off with Matthias giving us the latest, or I think actually that's Matthias giving updates on IPython.
Yes, thank you, Anna. Thank you
Okay.
for the introduction. So first thing, we released IPython 6.2.1.5.5 last week, and I'm considering probably releasing a 6.2.1 because of two minor bugs. One, I only had one complaint, so I don't know if it affects a lot of people. And the other is that JEDI has a new version, and we were using private APIs, and so obviously the new version of JEDI doesn't have these private APIs. So completion with JEDI doesn't work if you have the latest of JEDI and the latest of IPython. And the download numbers are really good. Almost every download we have upgraded to the latest version in about a week, which is really great. We don't have people stuck on really old version. And if I'm going to release a new version, I started to look into reproducible builds of SDist and wheels. And I would welcome, I've added a link to a PR in the notes. I welcome some comments, in particular if you make reproducible builds. You need to communicate the timestamp at which the build has been done to users. And I wanted to know if we want to have guideline on how to do that across the organization, so that people can redo the same builds with the same hash. I also had a couple of interaction in person and on Stack Overflow about multiple kernels, and I realized that there is still lots of ambiguity, and people get confused by what are multiple kernel. First thing is when you have IPython 6, which is Python 3 only, and IPython 5, which is Python 2, people get confused about that. And also from in-person discussion, a lot of IT people or people using Jupyter in labs don't realize that they can have many kernels that may not be different languages, but can be different machines, can be different environments, can even be different batch queue on a supercomputer. And I've started to send a couple of PRs to try to, at least for the Python 2 or Python 3, try to clarify that. And I'm wondering how we could change the language around kernels to make that clearer for our users, what they can do with kernels. There is also a number of projects, including our own, that were linking to old version of our documentation, which was on the old Python website. Which may explain some of the confusions that people were using. Like, for example, in the UI, you would get in the notebook, you would get, hey, get help on how to secure the notebook, and you will get to a page which is 3 or 4 years old, which is not great. So I sent a couple of PRs around to update that, but I probably have missed a couple of repositories. So if you want to just check, that would be great. And I don't know if it's a statistical effect, but I found a number of press releases with IPython lowercase I. I like uppercase I. I also don't want to see lowercase I because I don't want to step onto the toes of another company that start to have the lowercase I and uppercase P branding. So I just try to ask the author to correct that. Otherwise, MISC, not related to IPython, but Jupyter in general. There was Microsoft Ignite a couple of days ago, yesterday maybe, and they did a live demo of a new application they released for desktop, and they were using in that directly an embedded version of the classic Jupyter notebook with bokeh. So it was nice to see that at a really large conference. And otherwise, our backport bot is also enabled on Matplotlib now, and they're starting to use it and find bugs. So I'm going to work on that as well. And that's about it for my week.
Okay, great. Thanks, Matthias. And now we'll move on to updates on the notebook from Grant. I don't think Jessica's on the call. If she joins later, we can loop back to that, but go ahead, Grant.
Hi, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Cool. So, I'd like to release 5.2 soon, in the next couple weeks. We already have some PRs merged, one of them being the BD support or right to left support, which is currently merged, and I think some people are testing it now. There's also an open PR for Chinese support, internationalization support, and that is almost ready to merge. So those two combined kind of to me represent something that's a version that's releasable. So once Chinese support is merged, I'll send out a message and ask people to start testing it. And then if everything looks good over the next week or two, then I think it might be time to release 5.2. And until then, I'll just be actively triaging issues and trying to get that issue count down a couple hundred issues. And that's it for me.
Good luck with that, Grant.
Yeah, thank you.
And we'll move on to updates on Jupyter Lab.
Yeah, so we've been continuing to work through the beta issues, and we're introducing a new package called build utils that can be used to ensure the assets of extensions are correctly dealt with so that we don't have to have that logic in multiple spots. Because right now we have to do that both in JavaScript and in Python in different circumstances. So if we could have that logic as extensions grow more complex, only in one spot, it'll sort of solve a whole class of bugs that might arise. Oh yeah, the other thing that's not in the paper that we should add, we're trying to figure out what to do about now that React's license has changed, and so what things will move to where. So we'll probably get into that in some detail at the Friday meeting. But it's if people have thoughts, that might be a thing that they might want to join the Friday meeting. I think that's
What
it.
time is the Friday meeting, just as a reminder?
It's the same exact time as this one. So I guess 9 plus. Yeah.
Okay.
Just for context, the React license was changed from VSD plus a patents clause to pure MIT as of about 15 hours ago. They merged that PR. So a much more community-friendly licensing.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Oh, so did they actually do the release? Because I know they thought they were waiting for version 16 to do the relicense. So.
Well, in master anyway, it was merged. So I don't know about a release.
Okay.
There was a release. 15.6.1 is with MIT.
And it looks like maybe they just released 16. Yeah. Or at least they have a blog post up about 16.
It's just 15.
I'm not
Say
hearing
that again, Kyle. Your audio cut out.
I'm sorry. They're saying that 15.6.1 is released. 16.
Yeah, unfortunately, your audio is cutting in and out, and the volume's pretty low, Kyle, so we can't hear you.
Okay, never mind.
There we go. Now we can hear you.
Oh, I was just saying that 15.6.1 is out with MIT. 16's not out yet. It's just a release candidate.
Okay.
All Alrighty. Anything else on Jupyter Lab before we move on to widgets?
I think that's it.
Okay. All right. Sylvan, are you giving the update on widgets?
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. Yeah, I wanted to give you some updates. It's not like about widgets core, but I wanted to announce that we have released the X widgets 0.2, which is the C++ backend for widgets. You can already try it in a binder, and we support a lot of the core widgets. Now building upon it, so writing new wrappers for DQ plots and IPy leaflets and others. Speaking of, actually, I had some notes, like just going through my bullet points. Yeah, actually, there is some third-party contributor who started writing a new R kernel based on Zeus that has widget support. So it was a bit unexpected and also a bit early for us because we wanted to be able to break stuff, but this is happening, so I find it pretty cool. And finally, the C++ kernel, since that's, even though it's not about widgets, it's the time when I get to speak. So got deployed for more than 400 students at the University of Orsay, which is in the south of Paris. And now, like students who are like learning C++ for their first and third year of university at Orsay University are all using Jupyter and the C++ kernel. As like from day one. So it's a pretty big deployment in real life experiment of Zeus. So yeah, that's it for me.
Congratulations.
Okay.
Welcome.
Yeah. Alrighty, so we'll move on to, I don't think M is on the call. Any updates or anything anyone wants to share on NB, convert NB format before we move on to services? Thomas just joined. Welcome, Thomas. Okay. Pete, you want to talk about services?
Sure. I haven't spent much time on it over the past week, but I just finished jotting down some notes. There's conversation and a pull request open about upgrading to Julia 0.6. The conversation is mostly about getting the packages from Common Forward versus upstream. Chime in if you're interested. Happy to have people help on reviewing that PR too or moving it along. There was a request again, I can't remember if it was this past week or the week before, on MD Viewer releasing a package. Again, I just haven't had time to do it, but two people now, I think, have asked for a IPI package release of MD Viewer. So I think, Min, you've done that work. We just need to pull the trigger on it, make sure it actually uploads. So try to get to it this week. A request just came in about automating the PowerPC builds of Docker stacks. I think folks from IBM a while back contributed Docker files, had done it manually. This is a request to actually automate it, and I believe there was a bit of conversation in there about moving or possibly moving the Docker stacks to be official Docker repos, not just under the Jupyter heading, but like their underscore or whatever the namespace is for the official images. Which, if Docker Cloud can build PowerPC, maybe that's the way forward. But again, if someone's interested in that topic, feel free to type in there. I don't know that much about becoming an official Docker image or what that entails. And over the past week, I had opened or elevated from a conversation that I think I derailed accidentally over in Binder Hub about Docker file builder to an issue in Docker stacks. I think I brought this up last week about cutting down the images to smaller sizes and giving people a little tool to build their own Docker files instead of us maintaining more and more and more packages, separate Docker stacks. So I saw your comment, Min. I'll write a response sometime today. I did have some thoughts, so thank you. And that's it for what I saw.
Okay, sounds good. And next on the agenda is Jupyter Hub. Looks like they're preparing for a release in the next week or so. Min or Carol, do you want to talk a little bit more about that, or is that kind of it?
I think that's about it for me, at least. We're putting out various little releases of related packages, and Jupyter Hub seems to be in pretty good shape. We're just testing and working on documentation and stuff.
Okay. Carol, anything else before we move on? I think I saw Kyle log out, but did he log back in is the question.
I logged back in, but with a laptop this time.
Okay. Anything you want to say about Interact? That's next on the agenda.
Yeah, I guess it would probably be cool to talk about the VDOM stuff. We made a Python library that we shipped last week, and people have been really liking it. That's about it. I'm just really happy to write like declarative Python layouts. It's neat. That's all. I guess on the Jupyter Notebook side, for exactly that, I need help fixing the build. I have no idea what to do. And that's in there's like a VDOM PR. I think I've CC'd you on it, Grant. It's the same. It's pretty much the same exact implementation we worked on last year, but now in Notebook.
Yeah, I see that. I'll take a look right now.
Anything else, Kyle, before we move on?
I think that's it.
Alrighty. So before we go through the rest of the agenda and wrap things up, I did want to just open it up to anyone who is on the call for anything that's not on the agenda. I think I saw Jessica join.
Hi.
Hey.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Do you want to talk about documentation or anything else?
Yes, no, please.
Okay.
So, Anna, Brian, and I have been talking about planning for the blog. Anybody who has anything who they might want to contribute to the blog. So, for example, the stuff that's going on that you mentioned earlier, Sylvan, and might be of interest. Also, I know Darian, we talked about a possible blog idea as well. So anybody who wants to come up with anything, there's a Dropbox paper that's up right now that anybody can add to with things that they would like to volunteer. Also, I'm talking also with Hannah, or we'll be talking with Hannah and Brian and other members of the team about the blog. I'm sorry, the website. Since we're going to be trying to take down stuff from the JupyterCon, all that sort of JupyterCon paraphernalia, and putting up new things for the website, doing a redo, thinking about how we also add in content about Jupyter Lab. Additionally, we're thinking about like high-level things to include with documentation about Jupyter Lab, sorts of features you might not necessarily know about that we're featuring in the talks. And I know Carol talked about using GIFs, so we'll be recording GIFs for that. Also, speaking of talks, Jason and I will be giving another JupyterCon talk, this time at Strata, New York, and that's tomorrow. So wish us luck. And I think that's basically everything, unless I've forgotten something, Brian, since I've been talking to Brian about a lot of this. So if you want to chime in with anything else I've missed, please feel free, Brian. But I think that's everything.
Sounds good.
And I will start this. Okay, great.
Okay, so moving on to conferences and workshops, we have a growing list of conferences and workshops for the community listed out on the agenda. If you have anywhere that you're speaking in the coming months or even starting into next year, please continue adding to this list. And it looks like there's an open call for papers or proposals for PyCon 2018, which is May 9th through the 17th. There's a link there that Carol has provided. And if you see other open calls for talks or proposals, I think that's a good idea to start listing them out there and sharing with everyone.
One other conference I wanted to highlight that's not on there, and I will add it to,
Sure.
is there's a, sorry, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Is Maintainerati.
Okay.
GitHub is having a one-day event for maintainers as part of GitHub Universe on October 10th, and it's in SF. I will be attending, and I encourage anyone who is also part of the Jupyter community to attend.
Great. I added that to the list, and if you could just throw a link in there, that would be great.
Yep, I will.
Okay, sounds good. So next section is for action items. This would be a spot that you could list out. We don't have anything in there right now, but if you wanted to add to it, you could. There would be a spot for you to put action items for the community or for the other developers on the call. So last section here before we wrap up is just a recap of the releases. If you have any from the notes in the agenda above, please, just a reminder to repeat them down here in this section. So we have the releases from last week, the releases that are planned for this week, and anything that might be coming in the next week or two. So I think with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up. One last chance for comments or questions or anything that we haven't covered so far. And I made it through the whole meeting without blue jeans freezing on me. I don't think this has happened in the last 3 times. I'm very happy about that. So anything else before we close out? Going once, going twice. All right, gone. Have a great week, everyone. Bye.